You're listening to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we honor the bravery of the first responders and the families who stand behind them. Real people, real stories, real heroes. This is 8158. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of 8158 Podcast Stories of Sacrifice. Today's guest, we have Mac. He is a school resource officer and also a retired corrections officer. And he is an avid listener to the Thin Line Rock Station.
Oh, yeah. I love your show.
Yeah, I get a little crazy sometimes on that show. So
that's what I like. I like the unedited version of you.
Yeah.
I always like and respect a person that's not afraid to speak their mind.
Exactly. And, it's kind of crazy how, starting off, just to kind of give you a brief point with us is, I don't know if you listen to our podcast at all, but I used to be a very introverted person, very tight and not, let anything out, because obviously if you ever read the book that I'm writing right now, because I'm in the process of writing a book, so you'll kind of understand where I come from and, why I was the way I was, and then how I come out of my shell. And I just realized that, being myself and being open and honest and just owning a lot of my own stuff helps me to be more honest and open about everything else.
Right. I actually teach at our local community college about stress management and introduction to the critical incident stress management model, and introduce peer support to them. And a lot of what I share with them when I do teach, and I also taught in our in-house DOC Academy at my county jail, the same program. But I use a lot of my personal experiences and a lot of the trauma I went through on the job and off the job to show them, hey, it's okay to open your mouth. It's okay to talk about this stuff.
Exactly. I do it on the radio station, and, we talk about a lot of serious content on the podcast, which we don't, we show a lot of respect to our first responders and stuff like that, because it means a lot to me, and you guys mean a lot to us, because, you guys are there for us, and obviously you're there for the kids that are in school, and that's an amazing thing. And we totally respect that, and we love that, because our children need guidance.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we're trying to combat with our foundation, is not just by helping first responders and military veterans, but also by helping juvenile offenders, because we know that they need a lot of help. So we want to kind of guide them and kind of give them a proper direction. And you never know, they might qualify to become first responders themselves, whether it's fire, EMS, or whatever, if they don't have any serious crimes. A lot of times, the kids are just kids and they do stupid things.
Yeah. And it's important to realize the difference between what is just stupid kid behavior. I'm in a middle school. So, and like I tell them all, I think middle school is the hardest 3 years of my life, the hardest 3 years of most anybody's life. I mean, you're making that transition from elementary to high school, from basically being a kid to being an adult. And most of what we experience with them is, it's just stupid kid stuff. But there are the more serious offenses that go on. There's been a few times where, they do know about my background. They do know where I retired from. And I've actually had some kids that I've also had their dads in my previous life. So, sometimes the two worlds, unfortunately, cross paths. But trying to explain to them, I remember one day I went and had to take lunches down to in-school suspension. And I stopped and I went back in the room and I told these kids, I'm like, listen, I said, I hate to tell you this, but it's bugging me. I just fed you the same way I fed inmates. You got a styrofoam lunch and you got a small half pint of milk. So, if you want to keep going down this path, enjoy this lunch because that's what you're going to get for years for breakfast,
Right.
lunch, and dinner. So, and, I tell them, I said, I hope you never have to see this kind of lunch again, either in school suspension or when you become an adult. Yeah. And it really hit me hard how there's two worlds collided. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm feeding kids the same way I fed inmates, and I hope they understand that, this is not how you want to be. This is not where you need to be.
Right. Exactly. You definitely do not want to be in that category because it is not a good life. It is
Right.
not a fun life. That is a life that I had endured myself, and trust me, it was not fun.
Right. Right.
It was not good. Not good at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not a good life. And, like when working with the inmates, for the most part, it wasn't bad. Unfortunately, on a mental health angle, there was more times we didn't like going to work because of how the atmosphere was. And that was us. That wasn't the inmates. That was us. Uh, the mandatory overtime and admin and changing the rules and, the unfair discipline and some of the lazy COs and you had some that would do their job, and there's a fantastic group of guys where I work, guys and girls, top notch, you know, work with them anytime, do anything for them. But then you see mostly the newer people coming in and it's because of being shorthanded, they're hiring quantity over quality. And that just tanks morale. I mean, I understand, admin's got to staff this place. It's got to be kept safe.
Yeah.
And I absolutely know, yeah, they got to bring their numbers up, but at what cost? Do you want quantity? Do you just want a warm body, or do you want somebody that's actually can do the job and keep the staff and keep the population safe?
Right.
But the burnout is bad. I had gotten hooked up with a guy named William Young, Bill Young. He's a CO out of Nebraska. Bill's written a couple books, but the first two books were, like I said, how I teach. I use my personal experiences, and his first two books were just written just like that. A lot of what he goes through about going to a restaurant and having to sit with your back to the door and overthinking everything and analyzing everything for threats. I mean, it's what we do 8, most times 16 hours a day at work. But his books really helped keep things in perspective. We had him into our jail, for 2 days to talk to everybody, which I think really helped. We got copies of his books to hand out. With these guys reading his books and hearing from somebody else, hey, I'm not unique here. I'm not going through this shit alone. There's somebody else in another part of the country, same setting, is experiencing all the same stuff. And I actually had a lot of COs have their spouse freedom because, like, I had my wife freedom, and she understood a lot of why I had been how I had been for the decade I worked in corrections. So there's tons of resources out there. You just got to find them and you got to capitalize on them. I know you said earlier about, you writing a book. Bill kind of inspired me to do mine. It was more so just writing stuff down over the last June. It was 40 years that 40 years that I've been a first responder, whether it be fire, police, EMS, corrections, dispatch, coroner's office. So I wrote a lot of stuff down, putting this quote unquote book together.
Yeah.
Just to get shit off my shoulders.
Absolutely.
But peer support, like he stresses that a lot. And we were real fortunate in our jail. Warden Greg Briggs is our warden. He was very serious about and very supportive when we started our peer support team in our jail. And we even we wrote a policy. So if anybody out there is listening to this podcast, it's in corrections or any first responder community, get a policy together. It's not hard. It's just a simple policy, what we call schism relief time. I polled a bunch of senior and junior officers before we did this that had serious incidents. And I said, hey, when you were done with the incident, what was one thing you could change or would want to see done differently other than, the unfortunate outcome? And 100% the answer was the same. It was, I wish I could have had just 5 minutes to catch my breath. I went from CO mode to rescue mode back into CO mode, whether it was doing CPR, cutting an inmate down, getting medical there because they're overdosing, whatever the case was. Once the incident was done, they went right back to work. So we actually got to write a policy, and the warden was gracious enough to approve it, and it's worked well with schism relief time. Once the incident's over and the security is met and everything's back to normal, the officers involved are allowed some time, even if it's just 5 minutes to go get a cup of coffee, go get a bottle of water, just to take a breath and reset. Start to process what happened. There's sometimes it's more of a serious reaction. And then there's, they're granted a few days of admin leave if need be. They're also granted immediately, there's peer support trained people on every shift. So pretty much every day of the week, every shift, there's somebody there that has gone through the ICISF training for critical incident stress management. So there's always somebody to talk to. If not, there's an option to call somebody in just to talk and get her off their chest. And then we've also gone and vetted a few counseling groups in our area that specialize in first responders, because we said all along, me in particular, this is something I'm not shy about, but with our EAP, it's a good organization, but I'm not going to go after I cut an inmate down and talk to a counselor who the hour before talked to some disgruntled housewife whose husband's cheating on her. She's an alcoholic. That counselor's not going to, he's not going to understand one world to the next. Unless you've walked the walk and talked the talk, you have no idea what the hell we go through. And there's, it's no offense to them. That's their world. This is ours. But we found one counselor who has been a first responder since he's been 16, military veteran as well. And then another group that was started by a firefighter EMT from our local fire companies. And she has on staff a current corporal for one of the local police departments as a licensed counselor. So, we have cops talk to cops, firemen talk to firemen, corrections officers talk to corrections officers. That's who's going to understand what you're going through and be best able to get you through it. You understand corrections officers, they're the hardest nuts to freaking crack. Right. If you can get through to them, you're doing something pretty damn good, because we don't trust anybody. We don't talk to anybody. Hell, most times we don't even talk to each other other than busting balls. But, it's done. Our warden has been helpful and did very well with helping us put this program together and letting us do how we saw it needed to be done. And it is very supportive of it. So that's been huge with our corrections community here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I'm from.
Right. Yeah, I totally understand that. And, earning the respect and trying to crack a corrections officer, I've seen a lot within that realm from the other side. And it's sad because I've seen a lot of them take it to the extreme. And I've seen a lot of them that were genuinely wanting to help inmates, going from helping inmates to being taken advantage of. And I could see how they would just clam up and just be very protective of themselves and just kind of, want to rule with an iron fist, that sort of thing.
Sorry about the background. I have 3 dogs.
Yeah, I got 2 mutts, but the wife's got them over there.
Yeah.
Holding them.
There must be a squirrel outside or something.
Yeah, I know. Our 2, they think they own the neighborhood, so anybody that goes by, they bark at them. Stay off my block. So, when did you get involved with corrections? How long ago was that?
2014. I worked for Dauphin County as a deputy coroner for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Left that service. What's that?
I just
So
said,
I
oh, wow.
left that service for a little bit. A friend of mine was deputy director of our booking center, brought me back in 2014 for that. And then the prison took over in 2018. So they were running the booking center and the prison. To be honest with you, at first we thought, oh, well, this is going to suck and I'm not working in the prison. But to be honest with you, it was a lot easier working in the prison than the booking center, because working the block, these guys are already they're already in the routine, set in their ways, know what the deal is. With booking, we're getting them right off the street under the influence of God knows what.
Yeah.
It's every day, every night. It's a fight. These assholes coming in and just, even if they're not under the influence, they're just assholes in particular.
Yeah.
Want to fight, want to argue, just don't want to be with the program. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm probably going to piss some people off with this, but when I first started, we could still handle our business. Never abusive, never over the top, but you fight us, you spit at us, things like that. There were some minor physical repercussions were coming your way. We could go hands-on, even if it's just a matter of grabbing their shirt and walking to a cell. Unfortunately, there's been a huge shift in corrections everywhere, not just in our little corner of the world, where you can't do that anymore. And there's a big shift in who really has the upper hand in all this. So, that's been a little bit difficult. It's been good to a point where, like you said earlier, I mean, there are some corrections officers that are abusive and are over the top. But then there's also some that, they're just there for the paycheck. They don't want to get involved in anything. So, I'm sure every facility has that one extreme to another.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it has been good. Our county has done a lot with CIT training. We're learning how to talk to people, giving them the benefit of the doubt, putting yourself in their shoes, which I think has been fantastic. I think that was needed for a very long time, and it seems to work well. I mean, I found with, you give them respect and your initial contact is, sir and ma'am, please and thank you. As long as they reciprocate, everything goes well. They change the conversation, then, you have to change yours.
Right.
So, but, corrections is changing. Law enforcement is changing. I know my daughter just tested for the sheriff's office, 6 people, 4 men and 2 women. That was it. The amount of applications for police departments, I remember back in the 90s and early 2000s, 300-400 applicants for a local police department. Now they're lucky they get 30-40. And it's that way across the country. Number one, less people like and respect the cops. 2, do I want to make X amount of dollars being a police officer and never knowing that this might be my last day? Or do I want to make the same amount of money, working in a bank or working in an office or doing something like that? Which is safer for the same amount of money. If you can go someplace that's safer, who wouldn't?
Right.
It takes a certain kind of person that will always, no matter what, when the shit hits the fan, they run towards danger. Yeah. Same with our firemen, same with EMS. My son's an advanced EMT here in Pennsylvania, pounding the same damn city streets I did back in the 90s when I started in EMS, which is kind of cool. But, on the other hand, I knew what he was getting into. I knew the kind of shit he was going to see. Out of respect for him, I won't say what happened to him this week, but, he had an incident hit him pretty hard this week. And I'm half honored that he followed in my footsteps. But the other half of me is, I didn't want this for him. I don't want him to go through what I've gone through in 40 years and still dealing with shit from 20, 30 years ago. So, but I mean, he's a big boy. I can't tell him no. I can't put him over over my knee. Crazy's 6'5", so I can't put him over my knee and tell him, no, you're not allowed to do that kind of shit. So he's very good at what he does, but he's just going to have to learn his own way. I know he calls to talk to his mom every shift on his way home and unloads. So at least all that baggage, all that weight he gets from the shift, he gets to a certain degree unloaded every night, which is very healthy. So I wish everybody had that opportunity. I wish every first responder had that opportunity to have somebody to talk to. A lot of what I teach in the career academies up at our community college is, again, my personal experiences. Don't shut your loved ones out. You don't have to tell them all the gory details, because I always took my home life as that's my oasis. That's my safe space. And I don't want to tarnish it with all the bad shit. Everything out there is bad. Home is good. And I don't want the two to cross. I don't want home to be tarnished. So I explain to people, don't bottle up like me. You learn to, if you come home, your significant other says, how's your day? Don't lie to them and just say, I'm fine. Are you a big Aerosmith fan?
I love Aerosmith. Yeah.
Okay. So the Pump album, do you know what FINE stands for? FINE? You remember?
What's that?
Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So I tell everybody, I was like, look, you say you're fine, in the words of Aerosmith, learn what their acronym stands for.
Right.
Because that's a lot of times what you are when you say you're fine. Stop doing that. Say, listen, I had a bad day. I had a bad shift. Give me a minute, take a breath. Whatever, if you come up with your unwinding routine when you get done with your shift, go through the motions, stay in your routine. If you go get a shower, you just change clothes, check your phone, whatever. But then talk to, look, I did have a bad day. There was a bad call. I really don't want to talk about it now, but I just appreciate a minute just to relax. And then if you want to tell them certain details of, like, hey, I had an infant death, or we had a bad car crash, or, we had a horrible structure fire that I didn't think I was going to make it out of, whatever the case may be, tell them, let them know. Don't go home and just shut out. A lot of times, like with me, especially with 16-hour shifts on days off, I don't want to do anything, and if there's plans the family has and you don't want to go because you're tired, you're burnt out, you're pissed off, whatever the case may be, at some point, your family's going to do them and let you do you. And then those two lives are going to separate. I'm not saying divorce, even though that happens a lot, but you want to put your life on hold. They're not expected to put their life on hold for you. So this was an eye opener for me 2 years ago when I retired. You don't see this shit when you're going through it. I'm fortunate enough I retired and got to see all this. And that's why I advocate for, hey, learn from my mistakes. Don't follow my path. Don't be shut in, shut up, quiet, put walls up like I did. Share a little bit. We found that with an incident a few years ago with my wife and some others started the family support division of our critical and stress management team. And the first time they had to go out and talk to a group of spouses and family members of junior firemen, parents, the floodgates open. Usually we're used to just going out and dealing with the incident at hand, or maybe one or two recent incidents. These families have never had a voice. They've never had anybody to unload about this. So the first couple of times she went out, man, the floodgates opened. I mean, they were talking about stuff from years and years ago. So again, let you go home, let your families know what happened to a certain degree. Let them talk too. Listen to them, or, maybe, hey, I heard that call on a scanner. I saw that in the news before you got home, and it scared me. I didn't know if you were involved or not. Let them talk and listen to them as well. So, because nobody's ever, like I said, 40 years I've been doing this, and nobody has really paid any attention to our families and given them a voice, giving them somebody to talk to. They sure as hell ain't going to talk to us. We're going through it. But that's primary trauma. Their secondary vicarious trauma is just as real as us having that front row seat to that incident.
Right.
especially if you don't help them through it, because they're going to know the basics of the incident, but they're going to create their own movie in their head of what happened. And it might not be exactly what, or might be more horrific of what you went through. So share a little bit with them, talk a little bit with them, let them talk to you, help them put things in perspective, same as what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, boys and girls, they're your only support system. They're your true support system. They're who you have to come home to. And if that home doesn't have that balance of both of you being able to share, like I didn't notice after I retired, my 10 years in corrections, my daughter, who'll be 21 this year, but I couldn't leave the house. I worked midnight shift. I couldn't leave the house without her giving me a hug and kiss goodbye. It's just something she had to do. And I didn't realize the impact of that little gesture until after I retired. And then they finally come clean me. Hey, listen, we were scared shitless almost every single night you went to work. I didn't know that. They know I have to go through it. Boys and girls, they know, your family members know you have to go through this. You have to go to work. You have to put yourself through all this stuff at your job. But it doesn't mean they're not sitting at home. I don't remember what the quote was, but I found a quote from the chaplain for the Chicago Police Department. And basically, it's paraphrasing, your family goes to work with you. You're out there doing a job, but they're at home and they're just, what if he gets involved in shooting? What if there's a bad fire? What if he picks up a patient that attacks them? Yeah, it's their brain is going a million miles an hour. What if, while you're out there doing it? So they go through just as much as you. Vicarious secondary trauma is just as real as the primary trauma you guys go through. So if you have EAP programs, I know our EAP program, our county, good friend of mine, Michael Iverson, that's a fire chief of one of our local townships. He just got the county. The county employees have always had an EAP program. He just got the county to help with all of our volunteer fire departments and EMS companies now have a countywide EAP program through the one that our county uses for the full-time employees that gets them or their family members 12 visits for free, that they can go to counseling, any kind of services. What do you need? Financial services, counseling services, whatever. Because for years, the volunteer fire service, they don't have the money to be paying for fancy services such as this, even though it's very, very much needed. And Navy was able to make that happen. Him and some others in the county, like Jeff Enders, our EMA director, they were absolutely phenomenal in getting this approved. So now all of our first responders, have access to an EAP program, and we've always had counseling groups for them, and always referred them to them. But unless their insurance paid for it, whatever, a lot of it was out of pocket. Well, now it doesn't have to be. At least they get 12 visits that they're taking care of. Like I said, even their families, which is a huge step in Dauphin County for ensuring, the mental health of our providers. Because the worst thing that can happen is you're losing firemen, you're losing police officers, you're losing EMTs, because it's like, man, I can't handle this job anymore. I can't do it. It's too much. I've seen too much. I know too much. And they walk. So, but our program has been tiered to where you have our peer support, then we refer you to counseling services, the EAPs, and we have it that you can step in anywhere you want to. If you don't want to talk to a peer support person, but want to go right to a counselor, the information that we have, handed out everywhere, you can step into anywhere in that process you need to.
It's amazing that, that you guys have started this peer support thing, because it is something that is desperately needed. And I know we've been trying to combat that as well. We've been, reaching out to other organizations, because, there's a stigma behind the PTSI and dealing with the mental health issues of the job, and them not wanting to step forward and say that they have a problem. So we've kind of went and talked with certain organizations that will help, like peer support groups or organizations that offer counseling for free, that will help first responders and not say anything to their departments. about what they talk
Right, right,
about,
right.
even if they don't even know that they're doing it because they understand the stigma. They
Yep.
understand that, it is real. And a lot of places, people have gotten fired from their
Yeah.
positions because they had stepped forward. And I interviewed several guests who talked about how they were relieved from their duty because they had stepped forward and said they had a problem.
Yeah. And again, back when I'm teaching, one of the last things I talk about is also watching out for each other. Like, say, for a group of firemen, if you know a guy in your crew is battling addiction or even just serious mental health issues like depression, and that stress, that cortisol, the more it maintains in your system, the more you stay stressed out and don't get help. I mean, there's 4 different levels of how this affects your body, and once you get to where what we have is level 3, where it's entrenched. Entrenched means ingrained. If you don't deal with this, your brain will rewrite itself. It will rewire itself. It will rewrite itself that this is the new normal. You feeling sick all the time, headaches all the time, pissed off at the world all the time. If you don't go get support and you don't get that taken care of, and it's allowed to fester and build and grow, your brain will rewrite itself. Okay, this is the new normal. And that's how you'll live your life. This is the new normal. So it'll forget about how normal used to be. And this is your new normal. And this is how your brain will continue to function. And then continuing on with that, then it gets to the final level where you start with the addiction problems. You start with serious physiological issues, where people are having heart attacks. They're having high blood pressure, diabetes issues. It starts to manifest itself in physical ways, very strong physical ways. And it even with, suicidal, homicidal thinking,
Mhm.
getting into a bottle, getting into drugs, that's suicide. It's a lot slower process, but make no mistake about it, getting into a bottle because you're stressed out and the shit you've seen on the job and that's your coping mechanism to make that stuff go away. That's just a very, very slow suicide.
Yeah.
Support for this episode comes from Hero Link, connecting heroes with the trusted resources and organizations that make a difference. Learn more through our Support the Mission page.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a teetotaler. I like the occasional beer with the guys and things like that and cookouts and stuff. So I'm not a swear off of alcohol kind of person. But, alcohol is a depressant. And if you're already depressed and pissed off, guess what? It's just gonna, like I remember a Bill Cosby skit, about, drugs enhance your personality. He says, yeah, but what if you're an asshole? So it's the same thing with this. If you're pissed off at the world and you're upset and you're depressed and you're mad because of what you've experienced on the job, and then you add a chemical in there that's just going to intensify that, what do you think the outcome is going to be? When I started in 1986, that's how freaking old I am. We didn't have this shit. We had tailboard talks where you come back to the firehouse, you sit on a tailboard of the engine and, you talk about the call. Number one, fire apparatus doesn't have tailboards anymore, so there's no place to sit. Number two, people are so busy. There's like, at least in the fire service, you don't have that camaraderie as much anymore where you can come back from a call, sit and talk it out and be done with it. Get all that weight off your shoulders, get those, I kind of equate it to like rocks in a backpack.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can carry a lot of weight in that backpack. Every critical incident's a rock. But then you'll have that one where somebody drops 1,000-pound boulder on you and you just can't carry it anymore. Well, there's tons of people out there who will help you lift that weight off your shoulders, help you unload that backpack. It's easy. Nowadays, more than ever, those services for first responder are crazy everywhere. It was not hard for us to find counseling groups in our area that specialize in first responders. I mean, hell, the one we have, you walk into their office, there's a challenge coin board on the wall by the reception desk, and you walk down the hallway where it tees, and there are patches everywhere. And two of the patches that, at least for corrections, there's a state DOC patch and there's a Dauphin County DOC patch. So these corrections officers going in, they see the patch they wear on their shoulder on the wall right in front of them, and they know, hey, somebody I know and I work with has already been here.
Right.
So that this is okay. And we tell all these guys, whether it's, whatever first responder organization it is, we've actually sat and met with these people. They come from our background. They're going to know what you're talking about. I went through a real serious incident in 2006, and they sent me to a specialist, a counselor. And the first 50 minutes of our first hour is, why should I talk to you? How the hell are you going to know what I'm going through? So I kind of pissed the first session away with him explaining to me that he's worked with the FBI, he's worked with state, local, county, and federal law enforcement agencies all up and down the Eastern Seaboard. It's like, okay, so now let's schedule a second appointment. And now we can kind of get into this. But I didn't want that for anybody. Some of these groups that we have, I had a CO that was feeling suicidal. And this was on a Friday. And I called our counseling group, and he went in on a Saturday morning. Matter of fact, he even called me from the parking lot. He goes, hey, I'm here, but I looked on their website. They say they're not open Saturdays. I'm like, dude, like I told you, the rules don't apply to you in this situation. They open their doors for you on a Saturday to come in and talk.
Right.
Same with our warden, getting back to him. The policy is you have to call off a certain amount of time, and, unless you get, or you'll get points. But an open slip was done for him the day Friday when he couldn't come to work. And the lieutenant filled it out, and everybody was fine with it. Even though he didn't call off within the time frame the contract said, the warden trusted us enough that if we said, hey, he needed this, there was no questions asked. So everything was signed and everything was approved because he was worried about points and this. I said, no, this doesn't pertain to you. When something like this happens, I work with a lot of very good people that understand this is needed. But the warden also knows there's been a few employees that try to play the system and play us.
Yeah.
We put a good group of people in place that we hand-picked, hand-selected, that they were going to see through your bullshit if you were trying to bullshit your way for days off just because you wanted a couple of days vacation.
Right.
So, and that's how the policies all explain how all that works. But we've never given the warden any reason to distrust us or our peer support people. And so he does, we trust him, and things have worked out good. But unless you have management in your agency that's willing to do that, like getting back to Chief Iverson, he's the same way. He understands that as well. If his guys come to him and say that they need something, or we go and say, hey, this person needs something, we have that mutual respect. He trusts us, we trust him. And, things are taken care of the right way, the way they're supposed to. There's a lot of agencies that unfortunately it's not like that. So, and that's unfortunate, but I know we've come a long way in 40 years. So hopefully in the next 40 years, we won't need these services, but that's a freaking pipe dream.
Right.
But that a lot of these bosses, and I have seen that, this has picked up steam. This whole movement of mental health for our first responders has really picked up here in the last maybe 5-6 years, and has done very well for, our providers here, at least in Dauphin County. And the other thing is like with our team, I don't play well with lines on maps. I don't like jurisdictional issues. There are counties around us that don't have CISM teams. So they know we do. So if we get called, we go wherever we need to. We don't stay just within Dauphin County. Cumberland County next to us started up a very, very strong team. They are doing phenomenal work over there as well. But yeah, anytime there's something happens in a different county, if they don't have the peer support services, they call us, we go. It's that simple. I don't ask questions. We just go and we do it. And our team is 100% volunteer. So these are folks we have every first responder organization represented by a peer support person on our team, whether it be our co-responder program, sheriff's office, corrections, police, fire, EMS, probation, whoever. Our probation, juvenile adult probation department, Dauphin County both have very strong teams and have had for a very long time. So yeah, no matter what the service is, no matter what the county is, if they need a specific peer support person for that type of career, we have them covered and we go, no questions asked. But like I said, the big thing is we're all volunteer. We've been working very hard for a while to get some better county funding, which is nowhere to be found. We've had to write some grants for training, and the grants have always been approved through the county. So we've been able to do some good trainings through the ICISF. But, more support for training and things like that would be appreciated. But I mean, it's county government, the money only goes so far. So we kind of understand that, but hopefully someday and like I said, maybe got the county to take care of all of our firemen in the county and all of our EMS providers in the county. So that's a huge step in that direction.
Right. Now, basically have trauma-informed individuals handling all this so that, they know what's going on. They've been through it. They've been through hell and back, so they understand. Now, is this something that you are only doing in Pennsylvania? Or do you have plans on broadening out?
We have, well, right now we are the county's team. So I know a couple years back, a police officer in the northern part of the state of Pennsylvania was killed in the line of duty, and some of our folks went there. I wasn't on the team yet. I didn't get my training until 2002, but 9/11, October 2001, 4 members of our county CISM team went to New York City in Ground Zero. And they were partnered up with either fire department personnel or police department personnel. And they went out and did peer support in the rehab areas surrounding Ground Zero. And they weren't the only ones. There's people from all over the country doing that. So one of the things is that's mandatory for us. There's an organization called the International Critical and Stress Foundation. The individuals that founded that wrote the book on CISM. This is how it started. Dr. Jeffrey Mitchell out of Maryland, he was a former paramedic, started this. So if anybody wants to Google Dr. Jeffrey Mitchell and his books and things like that, or even get on the ICISF website, tons of information, tons of services there, tons of trainings advertised. But that's pretty much the pinnacle of what training you can get to do this kind of work. As a matter of fact, the state of Pennsylvania, a lot of states have CISM statutes, confidentiality statutes for CISM teams. And the one for the state of Pennsylvania specifically says that you must be registered with the International Critical and Stress Foundation and with the state, which is the Pennsylvania Department, I forget what it's called. Anyhow, we are registered with the state and with the ICISF. Well, the only way to be registered with the ICISF, all your members on your roster had to be trained by them.
Right.
So what we did was, like, we had our team and we reached that standard. And then I went to probation, who was a standalone team at the time, and they were all trained in ICISF. But I said, hey, listen, we have the overall county team, and then you have your county probation teams. You're all trained, right? Yep. Well, let me just put you on our roster, so you're covered under that statute umbrella. So that way, as long as you're on a roster, we're like, say I'm the facilitator of a debriefing. I can't be subpoenaed to talk to anybody. Like if a boss comes in, like you alluded to earlier about, bosses finding out in these organizations that these people are having mental health issues or going through mental health treatment, and it's costing their jobs, their promotions, things like that. And that is one of the number one roadblocks, one of the number one causes of the stigma in the first responder world and in your employment, that, hey, if they find out, now you're up for promotion with somebody else, he's been seeing a shrink, he hasn't, maybe it's better to give it to him now because he's more mentally stable. How the hell do you know he's more mentally stable? He just hasn't gone to counseling yet.
Exactly.
So with having everybody on that umbrella in that statute, as the facilitator, I can't be subpoenaed or asked to talk to a boss. Everybody involved in the debriefing or the session, they're co-participants. They are also covered under that. Like Fireman Joe can't be asked what Fireman Frank said in a debriefing by their bosses. They don't have to say anything, and they're covered under that state law that they don't have to talk to their bosses or can't be subpoenaed. Other than the next part of it is If you make a statement that you're wanting to harm yourself or others, then it becomes a mandatory reporter kind of thing. Then we have to, and when we start every single session, all this is explained to everybody every single time. I don't care if it's like your 10th time doing a debriefing, you hear it again. We make it perfectly clear that everything said in that room has to stay in that room, and it is even bound by law. It's not like a doctor-patient confidentiality thing. It's a law. We have to keep it to ourselves. You guys are for, the luxury of being protected under statute. Keep it to yourself. But then part D is you have to be on a team. It has to be registered and things like that, or there is no protection of confidentiality. So we've taken the different groupings, like the prison has their own team, probation, and then our overall county team. Everybody's on the overall county roster under that umbrella of confidentiality, which has been huge with telling these guys, hey, listen, we can't say anything. And technically, if we did, we could be charged with a crime for violation of that statute. So I hate putting like, well, I won't talk or I'm going to go to jail. I hate putting it that way, but whatever we need to do to ensure that these guys know, I know way back before we reorganized the team in 2020, there was a lot of folks in the area that didn't want to use our team because they had heard there were some confidentiality issues, that some people saying that they were part of the team went and talked to folks and then talked to other folks. So that was a big hurdle we reorganized that we had to oversee that and reaffirm to everybody. And that's why we lead off with, hey, when we do this, we're not allowed to talk to anybody. It's a crime. So to try the best we can to ensure that now, yes, we are very serious about the confidentiality. So we've had lawyers challenge it as far as, with civil lawsuits, with accidents and stuff like that. Hey, are you going to be subpoenaed to talk and have to say in court what my fireman said? Nope. We meet all this criteria per the statute, and your firemen are very well protected with what was said. So that's the fortunate part about the state of Pennsylvania. But I know Massachusetts, anybody from Massachusetts happens to listen to this and does peer support, I'm sure you guys know already. I know in light of the Boston Marathon bombings, this has been challenged by some smart-ass lawyer that, well, you don't meet that confidentiality. He thought CISM was just so all the cops can get together and get their story straight, which couldn't have been farther from the truth.
Yeah.
But, hey, lawyers get paid to take care of their clients any way they can. So, if that's what happens, that's what happens. But it has been questioned whether states and commonwealths can have this type of law and whether it will uphold or be valid up on the federal level if it gets that high. So, but for now, we do enjoy the statute now and the confidentiality for the people we talk to.
Well, I definitely hope that it goes to the federal level and is passed, because it is very important to protect our first responders. It is very important to protect their mental health, their livelihood, and they're not, just because they had a critical incident and they have been going through some stuff doesn't mean that they are completely helpless. They can get the help they need, and still, and even with that, when you have an incident, it might make you a better, more effective first responder, not the one that keeps holding it in, bottles it in, and tries to portray himself as being, this macho type of, I'm going to hold it in and nothing's ever happened to me type of thing. Because those are the ones that are harder to trust, because you never know when that might strike in that individual, and they may not be there for you because they're going through that.
Yeah,
So
a lot of what I've seen
training.
is Paul Combs does a lot of cartoons, caricatures, mostly for the fire service, and I use a lot of his pictures in my teaching. And one is of a guy with his head's a ticking time bomb, and the other fireman says that you're just so strong, nothing ever bothers you. What's the problem? And like you were alluding to, yeah, you'll have somebody that goes through all this shit, and most times he's a senior guy in the agency, and it doesn't matter what agency it is. Corrections, police, fire, it doesn't matter what your job is. There are people like that. And they bottle it up and they'll go through this serious shit like this is my job, and they excel on those scenes. They handle things very well, where you might have younger guys or less experienced guys that are falling apart or kind of shy away. And you have that one or two guys that they just step up and they take care of everything. And it doesn't faze them, doesn't shock them. But those same guys are also most times the people that you go through this serious stuff. Now, all of a sudden, you have this small, minor inconvenience. Like you go to a neighborhood complaint and this one person just won't shut up, won't stay quiet. Something very, very simple. But that's the straw that broke the camel's back. That's that one more tiny little rock put in that already heavy backpack that makes everything unmanageable. And that time bomb goes off.
Explodes, yeah.
So getting help, even if, like we tell people, the first line is, go back to the station, just talk about the incident. Even if you just say, two cops and you meet for coffee. Hey, you should have seen this shit that I just went through in this last call. And just talk about it because it was funny, it was pathetic, whatever. Just doing that unloads some of that weight because you're getting out in the open. You're not bearing it. We're very good at compartmentalizing. And how I explain that is you take this stuff and you stick it in a little box and you shove it in the back of your head. Okay. That's how we make it go away. All right. But I have a picture of Freud and a saying from him that when we do, and I'm paraphrasing, but when we do that, we're very good at that. And when you do compartmentalize and you do put it in the back of your head, at some point, some trigger is going to happen. Maybe it's a similar call. Maybe it's the same people again, whatever the case may be, something is going to trigger that particular box, that particular incident you compartmentalized.
Yeah.
And it's going to come back out. And when it opens, it's going to be a lot uglier than it was the first time around. Because then you're starting to layer one incident on top of another until it's too much for you. There's a lot of guys out there that are very strong-willed and can carry a lot of weight. And there's some that can't carry a feather. But even those tough guys can carry all that weight. Eventually, it is going to get to the point where it is too much to carry. Would you rather have a day or two off or a couple hours here or there where you go talk with somebody? Or would you rather get to the point where when that weight's too much and that time bomb goes off, now you're talking days, weeks, maybe months, maybe the rest of your career is gone.
Right.
Because you waited too long. It's, boys and girls, it is very, very simple. Just talk to somebody. Don't care who it is. Like I said, we did the tailboard talks back in the day. You're a cop, go get a cup of coffee, bullshit with your partner. COs, go to the control center or sit in the ODR and bullshit about what just went on. Same with EMS. It used to be called earn money sleeping. So, which I got to do a lot of that. Well, hell, when I started, I was thinking $5 and change an hour. And we were true Velcro patchers. I would work 72 hours straight in like 4 or 5 different ambulance companies. But still, EMS, you have downtime. Talk about it. Just, hey, you should have seen this stupid stuff we just went through or this horrific call I just saw. Most of the time, that's all you need. Just every shift, clear the air. Okay? Don't let it build up. Don't compartmentalize. Well, I'll talk about that later. Stick it in that box. And then it's like, well, I don't want to. Nobody cares. People care. Trust me. People care. They want to hear this stuff. Even a lot of times just tell them war stories of stuff that happened years ago to, newer members of your agency. That takes those war stories, those little boxes, opens them up, gets that out in the air, and then it's one less box you have compartmentalized that you can move on. So it's all about talking. I mean, you can see that, I'm not shy about talking. Absolutely. It used to be, but like you're saying about you were introverted. It wasn't that I was. It's like, listen, I just always felt there was more people had more serious shit that they saw than I ever did. Who am I? I saw a little bit here, a little bit there. But then when you get to talking to people, and hear their stories like, oh, I went through similar shit. Or I say, and they went through similar shit. One of the things we push with a debriefing is say something, even if you're not really bothered by it, but something you say, you might have somebody sitting at debriefing or somebody in your agency that doesn't know how to put their experience into words. Okay. But then you say, hey, I had something like this similar happen, or I thought it felt like this. And that person might be, oh shit, you know what? I didn't know how to categorize it. I didn't know what I was feeling. I couldn't explain it. But you have been going through something similar years ago, and now you say something that it clicks. It's like, oh, now I can understand. Now I can put it in the proper category, proper perspective, give it the proper label that it is, and it helps move on through the process. I had, like I alluded to earlier, my serious incident. A couple of years later, doing a debriefing, had a local fire company, same thing. And after their debriefing, debriefings are like meetings. More shit gets done after their debriefing than actually in the debriefing.
Right.
But you mill around and you talk to folks. And I talked to the firefighter that was involved in this incident. And I said, does it feel like you're on the wrong side of the fence? I mean, we're on the side of the fence always, like we do good. We do no harm. We always do good. We're always the helpers. Well, in these particular cases, both he and I were involved in incidents with our vehicles where we both took a life. Fortunately, unfortunately, we are in a very, very, very small category of people that can say, I understand what you feel. I understand what you're going through. One of the things we're taught is unless you've gone through the same exact experience, you never, ever, ever tell somebody, well, I know what you're feeling. I understand. No, you don't. You're not them. You didn't go through that. So unfortunately, we are in a very, very small, unique category of we do understand. And when I brought up to him about, does it feel like you're on the wrong side of the fence? Because we're on the side that do no harm. And now we were catapulted over to where we took a life. You know, accident, both were accident, but you know, we took a damn life, and that's not us. And it's very, very confusing, very upsetting, very saddening being on that side of the fence because that's not us. Never has been, never will be. And he's like, you know what? He goes, I didn't know how to explain it. And that was the perfect explanation for him. So I try to stress to everybody, you know, if you have an inexperienced or younger member of your agency where they just went through some shit and you went through something similar, don't wait for them. Reach out to them. Hey, you know, back in 2006, I went through something similar, and tell them your incident and what you went through. I mean, like mine was, I still have the copies of it somewhere. The paperwork filed by the Pennsylvania State Police charging me with homicide by motor vehicle. Charges had to be filed. When it was almost immediate, the district attorney's office looked at all the facts. My two brothers in the Pennsylvania State Police took very good care of me. They worked tirelessly on my accident. And when the DA looked at it, it's like, nope, there's nothing there. This was truly an accident. It was nothing malicious, nothing intentional. I broke no laws. I broke no policy. So I was good. But yeah, it's ass puckering, to see that paperwork with your name on it. And then I also prepare guys that go through stuff like that for the civil process, which come a year and a half later. Now I got to go and be deposed and tell the story all over again. Actually, literally in front of the families that I affected with the incident. Yeah, that sucked. But there's always one of the lawyers there has billboards all over our area. I can't drive down a road without daily thinking about my incident. But with the help of family, peer support, counseling, things are good. I pass by the location a lot. It does get easier. It never goes away, folks. But again, if you're in an agency or you know of an agency, like I've been called actually from the counsel I've talked to before, he reached out to me to talk to a police officer from an agency who went through something similar. Because he recognized we are a very, very unique demographic, very small.
Right.
So if you do know of an incident you went through, Have some of your, even if it's a different agency, doesn't have to be your agency, anybody in your area in the services that go through something similar, please reach out, because they will be so relieved to hear somebody say their story. Holy shit, this is probably the one person in the world that knows exactly what I'm going through right now. And you'd be amazed how they'll open up and talk to you. Because a serious incident like that, like I didn't have anybody to talk to, because like I didn't know anybody that did something similar. So I was kind of, on an island unto myself for a very, very long time. So yeah, that's huge with you guys. I mean, you guys and your agencies, you don't have to have the training, although it's definitely preferred and beneficial. But even just on the beginning levels, if you guys can have a similar incident and can reach out to whoever, you don't care if you're a cop and it's a fireman went through something similar. Reach out, because that was the situation when I was working for a police department, he was working for a fire department. But it doesn't matter. We had that one very unique, very common ground. Please reach out. You have no idea the amount of help you will give somebody, the amount of relief that you can give somebody by just saying, hey, I went through something similar. This is what I went through. Do you want to talk? Or even in those beginning first days after their incident, it helps them understand how they could put it into perspective that they can manage and understand.
Exactly. When you're going through that, did you ever feel like at one point that the walls were closing in on you, or that you were just on this island by yourself, dealing with all of this emotional stuff by yourself?
Yes and no. Huge family support. The department I work for, I can't begin to say, and I haven't worked with them since 2010. I was only part-time for 5 years when this happened. They just lost a couple days ago. Sorry. One of my good friends that was a part of that core group of officers that always took care of me and my wife. We just lost him to a medical emergency on the 29th. First thing I did was...
We will return after this quick ad break.
The William H. Bill Butler Jr. Foundation is on a mission to honor first responders and support those who serve. We provide scholarships for families who have lost a hero in the line of duty, offer second chances to juvenile offenders who are working to rebuild their future, and help new recruits pursuing careers as first responders. Through generous donations and the sale of merchandise, we're building a community that uplifts, empowers, and creates lasting impact. You can be a part of this mission as well. Visit 8158podcast.com to donate or shop today. Together, we can support those who serve, honor those we've lost, and give hope to those who need it most. Behind every badge is a story, and behind every story is a sacrifice. This is the 8158 podcast, where we honor the lives and legacies of first responders and their families. If our mission speaks to your heart, if these stories move you like they move us, join us on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you'll get ad-free listening, exclusive merchandise, behind-the-scenes content, and video episodes only available to our patrons. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you can be a part of it. Support us at patreon.com/8158podcast. Let's continue to share the stories that deserve to be heard.
There's just something about that first cup of coffee. For a lot of us, it's not just a routine, it's a reset. Before the shift, after the call, or in those quiet moments when everything finally slows down. That's why we're proud to partner with Fully Involved Coffee, a brand built around something bigger than just caffeine. This is coffee for a cause. Fully Involved Coffee supports first responders, veterans, and the communities that stand behind them. Every bag, every cup is part of a mission to give back to those who serve. And the coffee itself is fire.
Small batch roasted, high quality beans, bold enough to get you through long shifts, early mornings, and late nights. From strong, no nonsense roasts to smooth blends and even flavored options, plus tea if that's more your speed, they've got something for everyone. This isn't just good coffee, it's coffee with purpose. Head on over to 911gogojuice.com. Use the promo code 8158 at checkout to support the mission and save on your order. And when you sign up for their monthly subscription, you'll get 10% off. So whether you're on duty, off duty, or just taking a moment to breathe, fully involved coffee, brewed for those who serve and those who stand beside them.
I have a certified therapy dog with the peer support team. First thing I did was I went to roll call that night. Always give back to these guys. But I had that support. I had found out years later that my sergeant that night, who's long retired, I have a township park by my house. The zone car was to sit in that park close to about a block away from my house. If he wasn't busy, in case my family or I needed anything and we called in, they were right there. There were guys always stopping by the house to see how we were. I'm still very close with that night on the scene. One of the officers was heading to work or heading somewhere, but he stopped. He saw the scene. He stopped. He's kind of my, not to sound stupid or corny, but kind of like felt like my guardian angel that night. It was a familiar face that was there to help me sort this shit out that night on the scene. Went home that night. Actually, the head of the peer support team come out, met me at the station. We talked, got me home. But yeah, then just the support of the officers being there, the guy in charge of the peer support team, retired Chief Rich Malwitz, would call and give me updates. Actually, he called me the next day when the individual was pronounced brain dead, which is clinically legally dead in the state of Pennsylvania. So they kept me abreast of what was going on with the two individuals. One ended up passing. But then just knowing that, those guys were always coming to house. One of the officers, God bless her, I'm a big hockey guy. She was friends with the owner of the local hockey rink. So out of the ashes of this was born the County Police and Fire Hockey Club. And within a week, we did put together a charity hockey game. The food bank is right beside the rink. So the first year we did it, the admission was a can of food. And we did, and the silver lining, something good had to come out of this. And what good come out of it was this hockey game. So in immediate aftermath, yeah, there were people always around me. We got focused on this game and everything was good. Like I said, I got through. I was working for the coroner's office at the time, which was a conflict, but it wasn't because I didn't investigate it. But I took a couple weeks off there and a couple weeks off of the police department as well. And then just, got back into doing it again. There are still some times that it's rough. Usually the unfortunate thing is the day that this happened was the date of my mother's birthday. So that kind of puts a damper on that. But I mean, every year, some years are better than others, but this was in 2006. I mean, it's 20 years this year. And, on the anniversary, I get them open a little bit some years. I remember working booking one night, and this asshole friend of mine, John McDonald, who's now one of the captains at the prison, monster of a man, nicest guy you ever want to meet, one of the best guys you could ever work with, asked me what the hell your problem was. I told him, some bitch slapped me hard. And I'm like, holy shit. And it worked. I mean, you see that stuff in the movies, but when a monster man slaps you back into reality, it works, and so even then, I still have help all the years. He was probably the most unique help I've had in 20 years, but, I was blessed to be working with him that night. And like I said, him literally slapping me back into reality, laughed our asses off about it and moved on with the rest of the night. So, it ebbs and flows. It peaks and valleys. A lot of people and a lot of incidents like that are the same. I know other people with other incidents throughout the years that, one gentleman I know was a police officer, was involved in a horrific incident himself. And Every year he goes back to that location, the date and time of the occurrence, and, just sits there and just reflects, which I think is a good thing for him. Whatever you need to do to get through it and reflect. But I never really felt alone. And like I said, about a year and a half later was the deposition. So going through all over again. But still I can't begin to express the gratitude I had for the police department and our township manager at the time for how well they took care of me. Obviously with the civil suit, since I didn't break any policy, break any law, I was named. But as a government employee, if you don't break the law and you don't break policy, they can't sue you directly, even though you're named in the lawsuit. They can't go after your property, your money, all that stuff. It's handled at the agency level. That's why they pay liability insurance. So that is one good thing if anybody ever is involved in something like this. As long as you don't breach policy and you don't break the law, you're covered by your agency should the civil process pop up. But no, I'm fortunate. I had a very strong family and friend support system that I never really did feel alone. I remember the day after, one of my best friends was at the house and I was in the dining room, and that's when I took the call that she was pronounced brain dead. And I heard them conspiring about, I'm not a gun nut, but I used to hunt. So I have, some rifle, shotguns, things like that. And I heard them talking about my guns. I got pissed. And I said, nobody's taking the guns out of my house. I'm not suicidal. Leave my shit alone. And they did. But yeah, there was that constant concern and that constant taking care of. The big thing was taking care of my wife and my kids. I remember the night that happened, I called my wife. We were still at the scene. My father showed up. It was a Friday night, and he does. When I didn't work, I played with him in a Friday night Twilight League, 9-hole golf league. And he had gone, I was working that night, and yeah, he had shown up on the scene. And one of my lieutenants at the time, making sure he was taken care of, that he was informed of what was going on, and that he knew that I was being taken care of, and that I was safe and I was fine. So yeah, hopefully agencies throughout the state, the country, the world, whatever, can listen to this and take a page out of that playbook to model themselves out after the police department I work for, and do the same thing for your people that they did for me. Because even after all these years, like I said, we lost somebody just a couple of days ago. My first inclination is always, they were there for me. I'm always there. I go to them, and I got to be there for them. So even though I walked in a room, pretty much 90% of the officers in that roll call room, I could be their father. Had no idea who these kids were. Have no idea about my accident, but I told them that the one detective and the corporal, if you want filled in, they can fill you in later. But what's funny is we were kidding around. At the time, we did a big panoramic of all the department personnel, and my ugly mug is still in our group, hanging on the wall, which we still joke about it because they took pictures of the different platoons and then kind of like photoshopped them all together.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dumbass still hangs on the frickin' walls of the hallway along with everybody else. But yeah, it's if you work for a good agency and they will step up like mine did for me, no matter what you go through, as long as you accept the help, I'm here to tell you will be just fine.
Awesome. That's good to know that, if you have a good agency, they'll stand by you and help you out. And unfortunately, not all agencies are like that. And that's why, outside help is needed.
Right. Yeah. We're fortunate in this area. It does kind of like a monkey see, monkey do thing. Once somebody does it, tries it, others seem to follow suit. They don't reinvent the wheel, which is good, but it takes just those few agencies that have the balls to step up and start it, do it, perfect it, put it in place, and then others kind of see it and take notice, which is good. So, but that's I mean, for the past hour and 10 minutes, I guess you can kind of understand I'm very passionate about this.
Absolutely.
Like who's, honey, I'm sorry, the Aussie girl that is one of the DJs.
Aaron Jane.
Aaron. Like I love listening to her. She's very passionate about this as well.
Yes.
And I love hearing you and her and pretty much every DJ on Thin Line Rock at some point or another during the week, they're going to talk about first responder mental health. And I freaking love it. I love it. I tell everybody how I work as an SRO. Sometimes I play my music a little louder than I need to, but Thin Line Rock Station is on all day long from 7 a.m. till 3 in the afternoon. That's all I listen to in my office. And some of the teachers or the admin staff, what do you listen to? It's Thin Line Rock Station. Turn it on. Trust me, you got to turn it on. I love the comical deputy sheriff songs, EMT songs, stuff like that. I love it. So anybody listening to this podcast, please start listening to Thin Line as well. You won't regret it. I don't like pop music and rap. They don't have it. So if you like that kind of shit, maybe listen to something else. But yeah, I love the station. I love the music selection from everybody. I've downloaded a lot of music off of my app, like The Weight of the Badge.
Yeah.
Songs like that are phenomenal. So even some of the music that you guys play is geared towards, mental health. It tells stories of, line of duty deaths of police officers and things like that. And that helps a lot of people with keeping things like this in the perfect perspective. Or, like I like my music. So when something happens, I'm always looking for, a song to kind of help me, understand or get through what I'm going through.
Right.
So, it's awesome what you guys do. It's even awesome, and not just what you say, but even in your music selection. I think it helps a lot. Help a lot of agencies and personnel put things in perspective just by listening to certain songs you guys play. And it's awesome. And like I said earlier, you getting up there and just totally unedited from the freaking gut, telling it like it is and being brutally honest with stuff and calling stupid shit out that's stupid shit. I love it. I just absolutely love it. It's so refreshing to have some place to go and, listen to that. Cause there's a lot of us out there are thinking a lot of the same things that you say. So, and I have that's one of the reasons why when you said about this podcast that, I'm sorry it took so long from when I first emailed you, but this is why I wanted to do this with you. I love what you stand for and I love what you say.
Right. We tried to do our best, and we definitely support our first responders 100%. And this all unfortunately came about when we lost my cousin. And he was a 13-year veteran with the sheriff's department and also a retired Army veteran of 20 years.
Wow.
So he was 51 when he was killed in the line of duty. But he also worked in corrections while he was with the guards.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went to being a road deputy after he retired. So
this is your hockey game.
Right.
You said, come out of it. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm happy for you that out of something like that, the ashes of that, horrific tragedy that, some piece of shit had to do what he did to your cousin, that you could have this, to do in his memory, and something good has to come out of every tragedy.
Absolutely. This is a way that we honor memory. And actually, he was such a very kind and just laid back kind of guy. He wouldn't want all the attention on him. So we wanted to focus on his brothers and sisters in the law enforcement world and with first responder world and also with the military, because he loved them so much. And, like when he was gone, he was trying to protect the younger deputies that were on scene. And he saw them as his own kids, like his own children. They were basically the same age as his daughters and his son. So he saw them as his own children. So that's what he was doing, was protecting them. And so we want to honor that.
That's awesome. Yeah, good. And yeah, I can understand that. Pretty much everybody's like, they don't want the recognition, they don't want the pomp and circumstance. But I think this is awesome, keeping his memory alive. You should talk about him more. When
Yeah.
you do your, any way you can, when you're doing your radio show. What's his name? Tell me his name.
William H. Bill Butler Jr.
There, don't ever stop saying his name.
Yeah, we call him Billy.
Make everybody remember him. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's definitely worth remembering. Yep.
That's his badge number. That's why we call the podcast that.
No, that's all. Like I said, don't ever stop saying his name. Make sure he is always relevant.
Oh,
And I hope
absolutely.
that. Yep, absolutely. I think it's fantastic what you do with that. That is very, very cool.
Yeah. We try to honor him, and we built the foundation for him in his honor. We, built the podcast in his honor, and we found out about the first responders and the mental health aspect, and we figured that's what he would want us to focus on. So we went full force into that and helping his brothers and sisters and giving them a voice.
Yeah.
We give them a voice so that they can talk. And we've had guests on here that have told their stories, and then their family members would give them flack about it, and then they would come back at us and want to threaten to sue us for putting stuff on air. And we're like, no, you're not stealing their voice. We're giving them the voice. And if you want to go to court, we can go to court. That's fine. But we're not going to allow you to steal their voice. And we stand by that. And I think that we're more than just a podcast, because we're going above and beyond what a podcast normally does. We reach out to organizations, therapists, trauma-informed therapists. Some of them have been in law enforcement. Some of them are, like a gal, she is married to a captain in the fire department, but she is a therapist and she understands what he goes through. So we got that avenue. And also people who have been in law enforcement, EMS, and all that stuff, that are therapists, licensed therapists now, clinical therapists that help first responders. So we talk to them, and we done podcasts with them so we can learn more and understand better, and also give, our first responders an outlet with these organizations so they can go out and reach out to them. Like one of the organizations, the guy that owns the organizations, it's healingthehero.org. He is a former veteran, and he is also a former sheriff's deputy. So he is trauma informed. And those are the people that we reach out to, because like you said, those are the ones that you're going to listen to.
Yep. Nobody's going to talk to somebody, especially first responders across the board. That's why CISM was invented.
Mhm.
It's not psychotherapy. We're not here to replace counselors in any way, shape, or form. But it's giving you like-minded, educated, trained people to talk to. One of the biggest factors in our policy is you match up the services. Like, we don't send cops to talk to firemen or EMTs to talk to police. It's got to be like-minded, even though a lot of the areas, we are very close and we are all intermingled, and you might have all been on the same scene, the same call together, but it works much better if you have police talking with police, fire talking with fire, the same type of homogenous group talking with those people.
Right.
As far as peer support goes. Now, a lot of times we do debriefings. You get everybody together from the incident. And then if it is police, fire, EMS, things like that. But if it's a one-on-one peer support kind of thing, it's always, from the same type of agency. It just seems to work better. But it's been proven for decades now, since the 80s, that this works. It does cut down on the need for psychotherapy. Sorry to all the therapists out there. But it does cut down the need. And we are trained to recognize if these people need more than what we can provide.
Right.
So that's why we do vet these referral services, and referral services that we have vetted, and referral services that come from our background, that they are like-minded people. So that's why I think it's wonderful that the one agency has a active duty police corporal working as a part-time licensed therapist.
That's amazing.
What better for a police officer to talk to than another cop that's an actual therapist?
Right.
So after the peer support, we go as far as we can and then hand them off to the next level. And you're still talking to somebody that talks the talk and walks the walk.
Right.
Same with the therapist that's the firefighter EMT. So yeah, peer support is huge. I know a lot of organizations throughout the country do like these EAPs or behavioral health assistance programs, whatever letters you want to call it. But having a strong peer support based program is paramount.
Right.
Even if the peer support shouldn't handle mental health assistance past the scope of their training. That training was very strong in saying, hey, you can only go so far, but you better know the next level. That's why we have a clinical director. He's been a first responder since he's been 16. He's a veteran. But he's also one, hey, what should I do in this situation? We have something that we're not sure. Should we hand this person off? What do you think? We have a clinical director to go to and talk to, say yes or no. But then most times it's just, hey, this, you need to go talk to somebody else. Here's the information. Or if it's something more acute, like the officer I told you earlier, it was suicidal, we call them, we make the arrangements and then hand him off to them. We have a very strong relationship with our county's crisis intervention office, which actually in our chain of command, we answer to them and it goes up from there. Very good relationship with our director of crisis intervention. But it's back to funding for mental health. There's not a lot of it. Our crisis intervention office is running very thin. But we have the mental health component of our team has people that work for crisis intervention or had worked. We have one wonderful woman that retired, but she lives in the upper part of Dauphin County. And pretty much anytime I call her, can you go up there and deal with something in Upper County? It's always a yes.
Right.
So that's another thing with peer support. You better have a very good working relationship with your crisis intervention or your EAP people. Get them cross-trained. What we try to do with some of them is, like our cross-training is, we know how to fight fire, we know how to arrest people, we know how to bandage wounds, and then we have our mental health ICISF training. But then the flip side with the mental health component, try to encourage them to go sit at the 911 center and watch what the dispatchers do. Go do a ride-along in an ambulance, ride along with the police. Our fire departments constantly train at our community college. They have an awesome fire science program and awesome training center with burn buildings and all kinds of other facilities. Find out when your local fire company's doing live burn training down there and just go down the heck and watch them. See what these guys do, see what they're going through. That way our mental health people, one, get a better idea of where we're coming from. And two, they're also out there meeting these guys. So unfortunately, if we have to do a debriefing and they come with us, they're recognized and they're trusted rather than, hey, this is our mental health person. And, if you don't know them or understand them, or you think they're coming with the jacket where the sleeves tie in the back and they're going to haul you off to a rubber room if you say something stupid.
Right.
So building that trust and getting them better informed of what we do. Like we have the trauma informed care training. Well, now they need to have the job expectancy, the job problem training on their end. So they know what the risks are and things like that. So it's worked well. It's a process, but again, as a volunteer team, I've been questioned a lot about, well, what about this? What about that? Well, when I was working at the prison, working midnight shift and 16-hour shifts, there's only so much I can do as a volunteer.
Right.
There's so much any of us can do as a volunteer. We'd like to do much, much more, but it takes somebody doing this full time. However, what we do have in place is we have never missed being able to provide this service, peer support service, for anybody that's ever asked. So we meet that goal and we sustain that goal. And hopefully a lot of other counties and agencies and states can follow suit.
It's amazing.
So
We'd like to thank the companies that stand behind the 8158 podcast. Their support helps us continue preserving the stories of service, sacrifice, and resilience that inspires us all.
if anybody needs to know nationwide, if you have a team, internationally, if you just Google ICISF, International Critical and Stress Foundation, it's ICISF.org. Navigate through the website and you can find, and if you can't find, call them and say, hey, listen, I'm from this local area. Do you have a CISM team? Do you have a peer support team listed for my area, or what's the closest? If you need something, you have an incident, your area doesn't have CISM or peer support, you can always get it on ICISF.org or call them and say, hey, who's closest to me? And they will give you the information. We're all rostered with all of our contact information they have. And most of them that are you click on that name and it brings you to the information page. Reach out to them. Reach out to your county. Ask your county if they have a crisis intervention or mental health office. Talk to them. Hey, who do you have in our area for peer support for our first responders? There's a lot of areas in the country that don't have this or have it and don't know about it. Like our problem for a little while back in the early 2000s is it just got so much as a volunteer organization to sustain it, to communicate. A lot of time, like what changed for our restructuring was 4 of us got a call to go to a fire company. We're standing on the sidewalks like, man, I didn't even know I was still on a team. We haven't heard, anything from anybody for a couple of years. So then it was looked into, and again, we restructured, we rebuilt, and we're strong now as we were when the team first started years ago. So you might even have a team and you don't even know it because they're just volunteers. They don't have time to go out there and market and tell you guys over and over again, we're here for you. We're here for you. But rest assured they are. So contact your local county, contact the ICISF before you need it. Find where that resource is, find the contact information, get it. Call your 911 centers, not 911, but call them on emergency numbers and say, hey, do we have a peer support team? What do you guys have as resources in our 911 center for mental health services for our first responder for peer support? Start there. If you don't have it, again, ICISF, find out where our class is. It's 3 days. It used to be a 2-day class for peer support, 2-day class for group. Now they've combined it. It's 1 3-day long class for peer support and group support. The instructors are fantastic, but please don't go out there and play Fraser Crane with these people. A lot of times, mental health, first aid, if you don't know what you're doing, you can make things worse. We had that happen here a few years back by people that represented our team and weren't. And we were ostracized by a certain agency until we did some damage control and talked with their admin and had them see what we actually do now. And things have been great. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can do more harm than good. It's honorable to reach out and want to help. But if you don't know what you're doing, can't recognize the signs that this person maybe needs more than what you could do on a peer level, it can do more harm than good. But please, I encourage everybody, reach out, get the training, get a team in place if you don't have one. But search out those resources before you need it.
Exactly. Very important. And do your research. And also to, like you said, we don't want the imposters in there. And we don't want people doing any more harm than good. Right. And I always tell people I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm just here to let your voice be heard. And also, I do have my own hotline. I make it very clear that I am not a licensed therapist, but if you just need somebody to talk to, if you just need an ear, I will listen.
Yeah.
That's it.
And sometimes that's all people need. So we steer everybody a lot to our crisis intervention office that 3:00 in the morning, you just need to talk. They don't have caller ID. You don't have to give your name. But at 3:00 in the morning, something's weighing on you, even as a first responder or whatever the case would be, something went home. It's a number you could pick up 24/7 and call and just talk and you can help get some of that weight off. And they might even have some resources that they can help you with, maybe even some coping skills that they can teach you right there on the spot over the phone.
Yeah.
To help you get through this.
Right. And sometimes we refer people to a lot of the organizations that we have been in contact with, work with, so that they can get the help. The things that we can't do, that they can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Same as what we do. Yeah. And that's awesome. It's awesome to have that information. So somebody has a place that's one-stop shopping to take care of them from entry level up to and including, inpatient services should the need arise.
Be awesome.
Yeah. As long as we have folks like you and this radio station to constantly get that word out that it's okay. You're not broken. You're not mentally defective. You are certainly not the only one that has gone through this. You have tons of brothers and sisters that are right beside you and have walked your walk and talked your talk. And you can find somebody that has gone through a similar experience of what you're going through right now. When that worst day happens, there's somebody out there that knows who to get you in contact with, that knows what you're going through. Right. So, and you guys just pushing this all the time and just normalizing this, letting everybody know it's okay to not be okay. But I think the big thing is like I said, normalizing this. This is normal. The shit you go through and the aftermath that is as damaging as it feels, it's normal. Everybody goes through this. It's normal to feel like you feel after this. It's normal to be depressed. It's normal to be confused. It's normal to be angry. It's normal to not know where to turn. So you guys just constantly putting out there that there's resources available just to get people thinking, that's been huge. I think your radio station has been huge and your podcasts are huge with stressing that over and over again.
Right. We went to Michigan during the 250th birthday for our country, and they did a memorial service on that day for my cousin.
Awesome.
And we talked to one of the officers who was involved with his incident, and he was a detective sergeant with the sheriff's department, and now he's a lieutenant. I had a long talk with him, and he is very big on the mental health thing. He's like, after this incident is taking its toll, I'm like 100% in support of this stuff. And he loves what we do. And he told me, he says, if you think that there's nothing wrong with you after a critical incident like this, and you just go on like nothing's happened, something's wrong with you. If it doesn't bother you, something is wrong with you. You probably don't belong in this job.
And that's what I tell you, especially when I teach in the career academies. And I teach them about empathy. And I pick two guys out in the front row. I'm like, okay, you guys both went through the same exact incident. Like say it's a car crash where a baby died. All right. You both see the same thing. You do the same thing. You're side by side through the entire incident. Now you go back to the station. Firefighter A might be fine with it. Firefighter B is a train wreck. Whether he's younger, older, experienced, inexperienced, the guy bothered by it might be the more experienced of the two. But it's that straw that broke the camel's. Whatever the case may be, it's Lewin's equation. And basically that says you're going to react based on your experiences and your upbringing. Everybody's raised differently. Everybody has a different set of morals and ethics. Okay. So two people going through the same exact incident, what determines how you're going to react to it is your personality, how you are, how you view the world, how you were raised, things like that. So I try to stress, if one guy's bothered by it, one guy's not, the guy that's not should not sit around and say, well, He's just being a sissy over this. He's overreacting. He's looking for attention. I saw the same shit and I'm fine.
Yeah.
Good for you. But practice that empathy. Check on that guy. Hey, listen, I don't want you to feel some sort of way because I can see this is really hitting you hard. Just because it's not hitting me hard doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. What can I do to help? You want to talk about this? Talk to your supervisor. Hey, my fellow officer, my fellow fireman, my fellow EMT, they're not doing so good with this call. Can we call somebody for peer support? Do we have an EAP that we can give them information to hook them up with? Because I can guarantee you, folks, somewhere along the line, those same two guys are going to get in another incident together. And now person A is going to be bothered and person B, not so much. All right. It's not about your experience on the job. It's not about what careers you've had. It's your personality, your morals and ethics. The job doesn't train that. That's something who you are based on your environment, your upbringing, your life in general. So number one, have empathy for your brothers and sisters that aren't doing good with this. Because I've seen a lot of, what the hell is wrong with him? I went through the same shit. He's just looking for attention. He's just looking to try to get free days off. Bullshit. Right. I'm not saying there's not a small minority of folks that will try to play that. But you know what? It's real easy. The more you dig, that's when you reach out. Hey, what's going on? You'll tell pretty quick, even untrained, where he's full of it or not. Right. But when you've realized they're not, you got to be empathetic, because I guarantee you, boys and girls, at some point, you're going to need that empathy. You're going to need that little bit of, hey, how you doing? What can I do to help? And if they want to be bullheaded and pigheaded and they keep going down that road and they go through the different stages, they get that entrenched stage. And now that's their everyday thing. Don't be stupid. You don't want them as a partner. You don't want to trust them with your back.
Right.
Get them help. Get them back to their old normal. Don't let this damage be their new normal. Exactly. So because they can unchecked, untouched, unexplained, and compartmentalized, it's not good. It's going to come back out again. And it's going to be at a very, very inappropriate time. And it's going to suck for you, same as them. Don't let it come to that. This is not rocket science, boys and girls. This is easy. Hey, are you okay? What can I do to help you? You want to talk? I'll sit here with my mouth shut and let you listen. Now, I've talked a lot in the last, hour and 38 minutes. But, when it comes to doing stuff like this, you got to be a good listener. You got to be able to ask, certain few questions. Well, what did you think about this? I know a lot of times it's like, well, how did you feel about that? Well, then it makes you sound like a shrink, like I'm putting you on a couch and having to explain your childhood. I try to more so say, well, what did you think about that? What did you think about this? I know a lot of people say, well, how did that make you feel? And that's fine. It's just me. When people ask me that question, it's like, well, now you're trying to psychoanalyze me, but that's me. You might ask Rico, what do you feel about it? And he's cool with that. But like I said, everybody's different. So, right. But hey, what did you think when that went on? What kind of went through your head? Use anything but the word feel, or you could just flat say, if that's what you're comfortable with, when you saw that baby in the car, you saw that person burnt beyond recognition, or, you saw this murder victim, what were your first thoughts going through your head? Well, I know what the first thoughts are, holy shit. But what were your second thoughts? When you had time to look at the scene and look what was going on and process it, what was going through your head? Was it just the job? All right, I need to make this notification, I need to do this, and this. Or it was, oh my gosh, this used to be a human life. This used to be a living, breathing person. And now it's not anymore. And they're burnt beyond recognition, or they're decapitated, or before. That's not normal. It's not, people were never, we have not evolved to the point where seeing that day in, day out is normal.
Right.
Now, that's not to say we're abnormal, even though most of us probably are. But again, everybody handles things differently. I know I talked to the woman that was senior to me in the coroner's office. We still work there. we've been out of the job for quite a while, and we were having dinner together one night, hanging out. I'm like, why did we never end up on a couch talking to somebody? All the shit that we saw, and we couldn't explain it. That stuff I could handle. I know with my father, had a friend that was a funeral director, and he wanted him to come and install a sink in their embalming room. And my dad wouldn't step foot in that room. He wanted nothing to do because there was a body laid out in the embalming table. Wanted nothing to do with that stuff. But yet here I am going out picking people up and attended autopsies and even helped out with a few, and nothing. So again, but that's getting back to, I was raised by this man and have his morals and ethics, but he wouldn't be in the same room working with a dead body covered up with sheet. And here I am picking them up and cutting them open. So, everybody's different, but again, always be there for each other. I can promise you, if you're in the services, in a first responder service agency, military, whatever, there's nobody out there going to take care of us. Nobody. Other than like-minded people, counselors that know what we go through, each other. If we're not here to take care of each other, there is nobody out there going to take care of you. You think John Q. Public's going to give a shit about what we go through? That's your job. That's what you get paid for. That's what you signed up for.
That's the
So is the mantra for years, and it's really not. Maybe to a certain degree, but not always. Not everything we see, and there's no book that could be written about. Absolutely positively, there's no academy class for any service that can teach you and prepare you for everything. Just recently, our community college started with having me come in and talk about stress management. The big thing, introduction to CISM services, has been huge because a lot of people for the longest time thought it was psychotherapy, and it's not. And once we started going out into the fire community all over Dauphin County and teaching this class, when we reorganized, first year we reorganized, we had 5 calls for service for the entire year for CISM services. We rolled out this program and taught everybody exactly what it is. The following year, we ended up with 30 calls for service. So we've been from the 25 to 30 calls for service every year. Because people know, 1, we're here. 2, we're the ones that are here, then we will support you no matter what. And 3, we don't have to talk about your childhood and personal trauma unless you want to. We're here to help you with the incident and provide you services and support moving forward. So if you are on a team already and you don't have a lot of calls for service, do something. Come up with a PowerPoint program. Go do, especially if you're saturated with volunteer fire departments. These guys are always looking for training, and in the middle of the winter, northern tier states, they're not going to go out throw ladders and play with their hose on a 20-degree day. So they're always looking for trainings in-house or different things other than the same old humping ladders, throwing hose, stuff like that. Same with police departments. When you do your updates, it's the same stuff every year. This is a different, unique training. Go out there and teach them, this is what we do, and this is what we can help you with, and this is what we can provide you at no charge to you. It's 24/7. You get a real person, not a phone call. Let them know you're there. And I can guarantee you, once they know you're there and they get to know you and trust you by coming out and talking with them, they will use you more. We even a lot of our dispatchers that work as firefighters or EMTs outside their dispatch job, we've gotten calls from dispatchers before people in a scene even requested us, because the incident's been that horrific, that significant of a critical incident. They're just preempting command people on a scene asking for us. Hey, you need to go there. And they're calling us and sending us because you got the word out. You have to market yourself. Anybody's in the business community, you have to market your team, and everybody needs to know. That's why this is fantastic. And this is why, I wanted to be on this podcast with Rico. He's given me the opportunity, all of us, the opportunity to say, hey, we're here for you. All you got to do is call. Because a lot of places don't know, don't have. So, please, if you don't have something in this in your area, set it up. If you do, learn what it is.
And tell us what your team is called or what the organization is.
Is the Dauphin County Critical Incident Stress Management Team. Most counties in our state, looking at the roster on ICISF, they're called peer support teams. They're called, either spell out critical and stress management. I think ours is listed as just Dauphin County CISM, CISF. That's less of a mouthful to say than the whole four words. But a lot of places call it different things. A lot of it's just that county's EAP service, and CISM is incorporated with that. We're kind of spread out, still working together, but kind of under our own umbrellas. So you might have this as a part of your county or your state's EMT or EAP team. I know with the state we're registered. So, like I said, years ago, we were called to go up to Scranton. They didn't have services like this at the time. So yeah, we're with the state. Somebody can call anywhere in Pennsylvania and say, hey, listen, we don't have this service. Who do you got close? And they can look at their roster. Emergency Health Services Federation. Duh, I couldn't get it out earlier. Contact them and they can say, all right, well, Dauphin County's closest. Let me call their coordinator and they'll contact me and we'll set up when and where we need to go. So, but your 911 center should be your first call to see, hey, if there are services in your area, no matter what state or county in that state you're in, your 911 center should have information on peer support services, because that peer support team, their first organization they should have talked to is the 911 center. Because guess where your firemen, your police, your EMTs are going to call, hey, we need help.
Right.
They call 911 too. There's times that we have to call 911 and we need 911. They're one-stop shopping for, hell, when I was a state police dispatcher, counties would call us, well, there's a tree down on the road. All right, well, my trooper didn't put his chainsaw in the trunk, so you're going to send out your highway department to do it. But, 911 is who we even call for help. So check with them first and foremost. And if they say, no, we don't have anything like that, if you're passionate about it, again, ICISF, that would be your first step. It's one-stop shopping to anything you want to do with organizing a peer support team for your area.
Outstanding. I believe that's all I have for you today. We've definitely got a wealth of information from you, which is great. And hopefully it will reach out to people and they will be able to contact you and get the help that they need, especially in your area. And hopefully there are places in their areas where they might have that. I've heard of CISM before, and I know like in California, we interviewed people that have something similar to that. And so they're doing their part, but I know that a lot of places don't have that. And hopefully it just kind of trickles down and just kind of, creates a ripple effect.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully at least get somebody thinking or gets a conversation started is my hope.
Absolutely.
That with your help, we got this type of program out there and identified for the masses so they can do something with it, do something good.
Right. And hopefully, we can actually put it out on the air with the radio station. Talk about it there too.
Good. Yeah. Yep. You guys always do. Like I said, I love it. At least every DJ, at least at one point during the week, I hear something being said about mental health or commercials. Different places have gotten commercials on the air with you guys to support the radio station.
Yeah.
And they talk about, their mental health services that they provide.
Right. Yeah, we do that a lot. I know that my wife and we actually own our own radio station as well, but we play nostalgic music from 70s all the way to 2010. So whatever the DJ prefers to play it that day, a lot of our DJs are first responders.
Mm-hmm.
Give them an outlet to talk. So they choose their own music. They get to play whatever they want to play during their segments. We do have a country show in the morning, and then a new artist spotlight with any artist, but we've done a lot of country artists that are unsigned. And we do have the Hijacked. We have Southern Fried with DJ Big Ant and all kinds of different shows on there. It's just like, just to bring a smile to people's faces. We play a myriad.
I love the variety.
Yeah. we could go from playing, Aerosmith to Tammy Wynette.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Crazy.
like my daughter. Like we'll listen to it in the car, and my daughter comments about. But it's like my app on my phone with all music I've downloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, one song you could be listening to Metallica's Enter Sandman, and the next song is the Electric Mayhem from the Muppet movie.
Yeah.
Doing their song for the Muppet. It's yeah. I'm dating myself and kind of nerding out a little bit, but yeah, it's in it. And then Tony Bennett. Yeah, it's like I said, I like their station because
Yeah.
it appeals to everybody because everybody like they know, okay, this DJ is going to do country, this one's going to do rock, whatever. So they'll pick certain times of day, I guess, to listen to you or whoever. But
Yeah.
again, you guys are always running commercials or talking at one time or another about this subject. And I
Right.
think it's phenomenal.
Yeah. JJ and James are doing a phenomenal job with this, with the Thin Line Rock Station. And we are blessed to be able to be on there and to be able to tell our stories and just kind of, put a smile on your guys' faces and just kind of tell jokes, and, kind of get you out of the daily grind a little bit or just
Oh
kind
yeah.
of release a lot of stress or just
Yeah.
tell you what we feel.
Yeah. I mean, I love that part with you. But yeah, there's times like the kiddos get too much and I'll close the door on my office and I'll turn up Thin Line Rock Station and, get that out of my system after a couple of minutes and then go back to work.
Right.
So I get that 5 minutes of sizzle relief time, that 5 minutes is to catch my breath.
Just, I just take a step back and
Yeah.
crank it
Yeah.
up
But
a little bit.
it's awesome. I mean, any police officer out there that has the ability in their car to stream a radio station, definitely do this. Guys at the station, hijack that computer, has all the calls coming through on the board and put the 9 Rock Station on that to listen to, whatever. But yeah, it's definitely every day there's something helpful on there for anybody in any of the first responder agencies.
Oh,
So all
absolutely.
you gotta do is take the time to listen.
Definitely. Definitely. I would encourage people to go on there and listen
Yep.
because they do a great, fabulous job. And we're honored to be on there, and we're honored to have you on the podcast. And I'm glad that you listen to my show. I'm glad I'm just not talking to a brick wall.
Well, me and my brick wall, at least you got one listener. Yeah. Yeah. Like I think probably all 2 people will probably listen to me today. So,
Yeah.
we're in the same
Well,
boat.
sure we'll have quite a few, but you know, but hey, you're going to get, people that are going to hear it and they're going to spread the word.
Yeah. That's my hope is. Absolutely.
And
So, and I
that's what we do.
appreciate beyond more than you can understand of what you're helping us do for mental health for the first responders by, an honor to be on here, to be the one selected to come on here and talk about it.
Yeah.
If it helps 1 or 2 people, man, we did good today.
Absolutely. And that's the way we feel, the more people we can help, better off. But if it helps one person, we did our job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, everybody stay safe, watch each other's backs, take care of each other. So God bless you and be careful.
It was definitely an honor having you on here, brother. I'm glad you finally made it on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Honored to be here, Rico. I appreciate you, man. Maybe we'll have to do this again at some point.
Yes, we do have an off-duty segment to the 8158 podcast, so we can have you scheduled for that whenever
Cool.
you are available.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And
All
that
right,
one's
buddy.
a little bit more laid back. It's not as
Okay.
serious. So we can
Okay.
just kind of.
Well, this was serious? Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Listen, man, I listened to you on the radio. I knew what to expect, that it wasn't going to be, very serious and a lot of technical terms and crap like that. It was a conversation just to have. And
Yeah.
hey, this
absolutely.
is what you guys have afforded to you. So,
Yeah, just a straight conversation, very candid. But I'm a little bit more reserved because, I know this is more of a serious topic to talk about.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't get crazy like I do on the radio station because
Well, maybe
I
that
know.
off duty one, we'll do some war stories.
Yeah.
the funny, the serious, we talked years ago about writing a book and realized nope, nobody would buy it because the truth is stranger than fiction.
You know what?
There's stories that people tell, and the layperson's like, you're full of shit. Like, no, that's people. I never say I've seen it all and done it all, because people still continue to amaze us with stupid human tricks every day.
I believe it. I believe it.
So if we do this, trust me, I'm being honest. I'm not making shit up. I'm not sugarcoating or anything, but or embellishing. It's sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
That I know.
So
That I know. All right, brother. You have a wonderful day, and
You too.
enjoy your weekend.
All right. Thanks, Rico.
Yeah. You take care, brother.
All right. See you too.
All right. Bye. Thank you for joining us on 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. Every story we share is a tribute to the courage and resilience of first responders and their families. If this episode impacted, encouraged, or inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who supports first responders. Follow us on all social media platforms at 8158 Podcast for updates. 8158 Stories of Sacrifice is a team effort. Rico brings the stories to life through casting, writing, original music, and editing. Brianne Shipley as production manager, handling booking, social media, graphics, promotion, marketing, website management, and logo design. Please visit our website at 8158podcast.com. For questions, collaborations, or to share your story, our email address is contactus@8158podcast.com. Until next time, let's continue to honor the legacies and remember the sacrifices of those who serve, every brave man and woman on the front lines, protecting and defending us all. This is Rico signing off and honoring 8158.